Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Jesse, your DM.
Cody playing Lazarus.
Brennan playing Dis.
Mike playing Nim.
Britt playing Kenna.
And we are Double Doubles and Dragons. We're a group of goofy Canadians that have gotten together to play a little D&D. Sometimes we will say things that are inoffensive. We mean them as jokes, of course, and they're certainly funny to us, but some people may find this offensive. If you do, we apologize, but we don't want any hate mail about it. So just don't listen, okay? Let's jump right into the action.
I did get the White Cross once. Right once on this.
That was Dis talking about his God puzzle, by the way.
Not mine. Somebody else.
We're back, everybody. And quick recap of what we just finished up. So we found a secret double basement in Phelan's building, and unfortunately a trap was activated, and it seems to have burned almost all of the material inside. But we did find a vague wanted poster for Dis, no bounty legible though, sad as that is, and a mysterious map that seemed to have our hero's home island circled several times on it. There was some information in there as well about a fairly sophisticated trap, incendiary type trap, so a lot of planning went into this. Dis also had an interesting encounter with a certain captain, a tiny gnome captain, who upon learning that Dis in fact had no paperwork for working on the job site, tossed him into a pit. Dis was able to get away using the teleportation rings, but it kind of felt like something was restricting the teleportation magic a little bit on his way out, and the rest of the team has a couple of theories for why that might be, but nothing concrete at this point. Everybody's back together. They're going to take some time and think about their next moves, so why don't we join them? I will say, obviously, this all doesn't have to happen the same night as well. If you guys wanted to have gone to sleep, thought about it, maybe did a day of work in between to kind of give yourselves some idea. We're still on downtime, so time can travel as quickly or as slowly as we need it to. So, I guess, does anybody have either ideas for something they can do right away, or maybe you want to change tack and work on something else instead for a little while? Feel free.
Yeah. Lazarus is going to start, especially with him meeting people and a lot of people doing routes and working in merchant ship.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to start hitting up the taverns around those areas and, basically, I guess, socialize a lot more with people that I've met around there and just do a lot of talking and learn about the world in general.
Okay. Any specific points of history you're interested in?
Recent, I suppose.
Okay. In terms of the Stronghold or the world at large?
Both.
Okay. Just kind of whatever you can get.
Anything people were talking about. And just...
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. We will see what you come up with. For now, do a luck roll for the people you meet and a persuasion roll for how well you kind of ply information out of people.
15 and 26.
Okay, not too bad, not too bad. Anything else anybody wants to work on while Lazarus does some sleuthing for maybe a couple of days in some bars? I mean, Dis, if you want to do your Thief Guild stuff, that might
I want to go back to
Are you going back?
Yeah, I'm going to... Kenna's... You should go with me as well, I think.
Part of this.
Okay. You guys are going to go back to that place. Nim, where does that put you?
I will... I mean, not that Dis wouldn't think of this already, but I'm going to...
investigate the chemical containers and stuff, too. His name's the smart one. He might be able to figure out what the... where the materials came from.
Nim's the smart one.
Well, he's the intelligence one.
Did Nim take any of that stuff away with him?
No, but I did a pretty close investigation when I was there.
Okay. But yeah, sorry, you were saying something you had an idea to do, so...
I was going to suggest to Dis just to get, based on the papers he got, to get fake papers made. Not that he wouldn't have thought of that, but...
Yeah,
I think Dis has a certain amount of forgery skill on his own.
I should. I'm a charlatan background.
Well,
so...
we both have scroll sets.
Yeah, so we both should be able to do it. We could probably just speed it up by both of us, trying to get... Maybe,
all three of us have... Well, because he is a scroll set and I have a scroll set.
Yeah, so we should probably... Or we can group up and, do one... probably just do a set of papers for everybody.
Do you have a proper forger's kit? Or was that somebody else's background in the little side campaign we did?
I'm not sure.
Let's just check their background.
Yeah, let me check.
Yeah. I mean, charlatan would certainly have a certain amount in that area, but I can't remember if you had to...
disguise kits and stuff.
Yeah.
We should also, I suppose, like, just to add to that discussion while they're around, mention up that we should check to make sure the paper isn't special.
Okay.
I did a pretty thorough investigation on it, and I will continue to do so, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I just assume when you're looking at the papers, you're kind of checking some of that stuff.
Yeah,
But good thing to mention so that I don't try to sneak
If it is a
past you.
special type of paper, we could just try to alter the document too.
Yep.
Like try to scrape some ink off and
Yeah, this one's basically, I think I have tool proficiency in forgery. The kit is basically like I could come with ink or whatever I want on it, but I believe I wouldn't need a specific forgery kit as long as I had the tools that I need from it, so that'd be like ink and,
Yeah.
and like a knife to scrape stuff off.
So you have proficiency with a forger's kit, but you don't have one. But you're going to go talk to the Thieves Guild or try to anyway. They might have one too as a solid side option. Okay, that seems fair. Nim was talking about maybe some alchemical stuff. One thing I will note, Kenna, because you've been investigating the paperwork, something stands out to you a little bit. On one of the bits of paper, it looks like pretty much every person that Dis will say removed the paperwork from with various methods. Every single person has 4 bits of paperwork. And they kind of have a lot of what you would imagine. One kind of identifies them, one kind of identifies who they're supposed to go work for, another details the job, and a 4th seems to be kind of a final sign-off from everybody involved. But it stands out to you because you notice that on that final piece of paper where there's kind of all of the final authorizations, those lines for people to sign on look a little familiar to you.
From Phelan's shop. I'll pass along that knowledge to everyone.
Okay.
So that... Oh, man, that's got a lot of... It means this entire thing... That does relate to this entire thing now. Potentially.
They know we know Maverick.
Well, yeah.
Actually, you found almost no mentions of Maverick anywhere since you came inside, really.
This is paranoid, they know.
Yeah, but I mean, they've been keeping a close eye on us from the beginning. They're not going to just stop keeping a close eye on us now. I also am, like, very curious as to where this wanted thing came from. Who sent that out? How the hell Phelan knows where our island is? That's another... Unless Maverick is sending communications back, or someone else is.
He was referred to as, what do they call him? The Revolutionary Maverick? Is that what they called him? Is it revolutionary? Is that right?
Revolutionary. Yeah, I think at one point somebody mentioned a possible revolutionary streak in him.
Yeah. Another rebel Maverick.
Rebel, yeah.
So I'm wondering if Phelan is higher up than we had previously guessed. She has ties to higher. I wonder if Phelan is at the camps. In disguise. As the short grumpy man.
She's the captain.
That's an interesting thing from Kenna. Maybe it's not a, complete conspiracy. Maybe it's 2 conspiracies.
God.
or Maverick is a mole.
Could be also.
It could be anyone. It could be anyone in his crew, though, right? Could be Goose. Goose got fixed here. What if he's unknowingly? What if being tracked?
So I suppose the biggest concern now is that we don't know who else knows about the island.
And who the fuck wants us?
And why? What are they after?
Is there any way we can send Bird to the island? Nope. We're
No.
fucked now.
Well, that's more. You can pursue, what avenues could you do? You can pursue the Thieves Guild or the Blade Shadow for getting a message outside, potentially.
I think Blade Shadow is our best bet.
Potentially, but there's going to be a further cost associated to that. Who knows how much getting a message out to the Stronghold may cost.
Maybe Skinner.
Skinner would be the other one we could try to go for. I mean, that would be extremely difficult, and Skinner would be... We'd eventually have to reveal a lot to Skinner before we would allow that.
Oh, for sure. Which we need to do tonight.
Sorry, which one?
We need to tell Skinner about Phelan tonight.
Well,
Her hideout.
see, now here's the thing. We don't have any tie of this to the Blade's Shadow.
No.
No, and we know that Skinner, so that he says, works on behalf of His Majesty the Queen. So how is maybe, well, you know, this is one of Skinner's workshops. So they come in and be like, what did you do to my papers?
But if we brought him into the room, we'd be able to gauge his...
Well, we're not going to be able to bring him into the room. So, like, what's our plan? Is our plan to go there to Phelan's at midnight and then, like, use the eye, or tell them separately if the eye when we're not there?
I don't know, there's so many questions.
Well, I mean, there's just a lot of new information, you know. Who do we don't really trust anyone at the moment.
No, I trust no one. I don't even trust Lil.
We should focus on the Thieves Guild. I think we should focus on the Thieves Guild because anybody in a position of authority right now is not going to give us shit for information. So we need to go through darker chat.
Unless we found one that is discontent.
Yes.
But they're going to be doing a real lockdown on discontentment right now as things are getting repaired.
Are they, though? Because they're so busy focusing on the gaping hole in the side of the stronghold.
And to be fair, I mean, you did get all the way there, have that conversation with the guard, and still be able to slip away.
Yeah, but that requires some crazy acts of stealth. We have to get dirty a little bit and talk to the Thieves Guild and Skinner and...
This just
and
wants
Skinner.
the Thieves Guild.
But I don't see a good way to go without using the Thieves Guild right now, because every time we go try to go up the chain, we get blocked by somebody who's going to give us no information and toss us into prison for doing it.
What if we tried the Shadow Blade? Blade Shadow.
They're just another version of Thieves Guild, though, it feels like.
Yeah, but we're already in it.
Sure. Yeah, I think anything that's darker we should try to use.
Just gonna go for that, absolutely.
I mean, we can definitely go to the Thieves Guild and try to get a feel of it, but the other issue is the issue we've had with the Stronghold up until this point is the fact that we've trusted basically everyone we've come across. And then we got thrown into an elemental that was way beyond elementals and demons that were out of our zone. And now they're rebuilding some sort of thing on top of it, keeping everything a secret, and we're fine. We're not in trouble.
They used us.
Yeah. We were the face of it.
So that's why I think we should go to the Thieves
We
Guild.
weren't even... I mean, agreed, we should go to the Thieves Guild.
Yeah,
but I
no,
don't
we
think
definitely
they didn't-
should.
We weren't publicly made the face of that, though.
People know, like
People-
publicly in the fact of like the people in
There was-
higher up
there was-
positions.
A couple of weeks where the Adventurers Guild had some rumors going around, but our last few weeks of
No,
Travis
general
Jones-
public no, but the higher ups of this world all will know who we are.
They knew who we were the moment we got here.
But now they really know who we
Well, I
are.
mean, yeah. We did set up one hell of a signifier.
What were the original rules for adventurers in this Stronghold? Was
All sorts of things.
While Dis looks that up, I am enjoying, because I remember when everybody was saying, it's really too bad we haven't encountered, like, a bigger city, right? A lot of our stuff's been kind of out in the wilds, but the city's a dangerous place.
Well, it was originally a city, but then you made it an entire like civilization.
It's not just a city. This is like
Okay.
we're like,
When you're the only lighthouse in the darkness.
I know. But I feel like
Gee, that makes me feel all sorts of pleasant.
it's almost like we're trying to infiltrate, like, I don't know, some big monarchy. We're peasants.
Yeah.
Gotta work your way up. But will you work your way up with honest jobs?
No,
Thievery?
obviously not. I don't think anyone can actually work their way up with honest jobs. Unfortunately, that's not how society works. Even in real life.
Ooh, shade. While Dis is looking for something in his notes, I guess, so who wants to go first with what they're doing in their downtime activity next?
I guess Lazarus can go.
Sure.
Talking to you.
Yeah, Lazarus, we have you talking, and your rolls were pretty good, actually. So, in terms of, there's a fair amount of information that you can kind of pick up. I think maybe the best way to handle it will just be, give me kind of your main questions you're after, and I can kind of try to piece them together, rather than me just dumping a whole...
Okay, so I suppose if there's any known activities of the Stronghold outside of the Stronghold that people know about in recent years.
Some of the people in the bars, especially the guardsmen, do talk about how, like, adventurers and that specific group that is involved in the defense of the outer perimeter that you guys encountered already. There's a lot of talk about how they used to have more outside jobs. People complain a lot now about how it seems like a lot of times the adventurers are just sticking around and taking up space inside the walls these days.
You're gonna infiltrate our island, take over our people.
Alright, and then I suppose recent history of, any of the races or anything?
Okay, recent histories and...
I suppose just anything that anyone knows about, well, this is how, like, the dwarves are doing, how the humans are doing.
Outside of the Stronghold, people don't have a lot of information. There are all kinds of rumors. People talk about things like the dwarves have tunneled so deep under the mountains that nobody can find them anymore. Stuff like that. The wood elves have retreated into the forest and become trees themselves. Stuff like that. But in terms of like the readily available knowledge, it is a well-known fact that most races are represented inside the Stronghold. There's a certain amount of clickiness that has come with that, but a lot of them are so small that it doesn't really make sense for them to be completely xenophobic. There are a couple of races that are, at least as far as anybody knows, notably missing. Up until your arrival, yours being one of them, the blue Dragonborns were not within the Stronghold, period. You still get an odd look from time to time. Some of the races are less represented than others. Humans have taken up a large predominancy, but wood elves as well have seen a fairly strong presence in the Stronghold. High elves less so. There's a lot of rumors around high elves, things like when their floating continent fell, their race was almost entirely wiped out. Others believe that now they're holding their island underwater instead in a secret sort of Atlantean-style thing going on. It's really tough to separate mythology from practical information.
What are the other missing races?
There is... None of the races are 100% absent, outside of the blue Dragonborns. However... a lot of the races are severely underrepresented. Halflings are extremely rare. It's not that they don't exist, but they are extraordinarily rare. High elves as well.
Okay, well, we know from the previous world they were already rare.
Exactly, but that's not necessarily common knowledge to these people. There's a couple of other ones that are a little rarer. There's been a lot of talk about how originally there was a decent contingent of orc, half-orc, and tieflings, but they were largely driven out due to the kind of unconscious desire of the remaining races to blame them a lot for what happened. There was, in fact, a couple of years ago, a mass exodus of the remaining tieflings and half-orcs. They kind of all left in a big group as a deal with whoever was in charge. Nobody really knows who the deal was cut with, but they were basically given the choice of either all be locked up or all leave, and they chose to leave.
Okay, and so that actually potentially puts a large amount of tieflings and half-orcs in that area.
In a potential surrounding area.
So, swamp? Maybe Igneous is just the front face for a long while.
Maybe.
Possibly.
Maybe Igneous is working with the Stronghold. I suspect everyone.
Everybody's so unsure who to trust now. Anything else in particular you're interested in?
I suppose what information people are talking about, I guess, leading up to the event. I suppose the Cataclysm before the war. So bits of like what the world looked like leading up to it, just what people. That'd be very few pieces of information, but
it's even worse than that because there's kind of an unwritten rule that people's lives started when they joined Stronghold. It's kind of this is a sanctuary, and the trauma of what happened before is over now. And people don't really bring it up that much. It's almost a completely avoided topic. Every once in a while you get somebody really drunk who shares the tiniest tidbits of information, like, I remember when my parents were killed during the Cataclysm and stuff like that, but it's largely an untalked about thing. Not quite illegal to talk
so I
about,
won't
but...
go for specific people's events, more like the specific events that happened around that time, because Lazarus just doesn't have any of that history from what was happening when he was taken. So, like,
yeah.
I don't know if anyone still remembers what the war was like and stuff.
A lot of people that do remember, it's really the horror of the thing. Demons and dragons everywhere. Some people have stories of tieflings and orcs also sacking their villages. Some people have stories about large portions of humanity going rogue and killing people and that sort of thing. But all the stories are a little different in those ways. The other thing you pick up on just from kind of listening to people, which was maybe a little surprising to you, is because of how bad it is outside that people remember. I mean, you guys have been outside and know it's not a complete horror show out there now, but it is still can be bad. But people remember it as you can't go 5 feet without a demon killing you, and that memory is very much preserved for them. They remember the outside world as much worse than you know it to be now, and it has developed a fairly fervent loyalty to the Stronghold in a lot of people. They really do believe this is the last part of the world that hasn't gone completely insane, and they're pretty attached to it.
What else can I check? Then I'll suppose after that, the next piece of information I'll try to gather is just what are the recent events that happened in the Stronghold leading up to us arriving? Like, what happened before we got there? Was there any major events and that sort?
It's actually funny. The people really talk about, there's kind of the 4 main events people remember about the Stronghold. People that have been there the longest remember the initial binding, which is what they called when the Stronghold was created. Though a lot of the people you talk to on the market rung don't have any specific knowledge of that. It's really more for the people that were here first, wealthier, a lot of them, that kind of stuff. People talk about the Exodus, which was the leaving of the tieflings and the half-orcs and some of the other more undesirable eminence being expelled. There is talk of the rebel traitor, Maverick, who is kind of viewed as like the most recent threat to the Stronghold prior to obviously the demon event. And then of course the last one is the demon event itself.
Man, it's gonna be. I'll try to very carefully, very casually, like as far as when like the rebel or maverick or anything gets talked about, to just very lightly ask around that, be like, just I wasn't here for it, sort of thing.
Fair enough.
See what people talk about, what they know.
It's very fanatical. A lot of people talk about how there was a large belief that he was going to be kind of one of the people to help the Stronghold take more land, kind of retake the world sort of thing. A lot of people seem to have had a lot of faith in him. His position appears to have been very high. He had a lot of visibility. People talk about him being in one of the most powerful adventuring groups that people can remember. And then just that immense sense of betrayal when he left.
Alright, so just be very well known. People had high hopes for him, and were devastated when he left.
Yeah. I think we'll leave it there. We'll see if we can pull in the other guys. So who's next? Who's got something they want done? Yes, would you like to
sure.
talk to the Thieves Guild? I guess you're taking Kenna with you is the idea?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just using me for my looks.
That is true.
And her lack of fear for chainmail.
That also, and his ability to calm him down when he's freaking out about chainmail.
Okay, so I have a follow-up question that maybe you guys haven't thought of. The shop you're talking about, the one that was selling the really weird food, was only about 45 minutes away from the warehouse. So, I mean, it's clearly gone.
We know how to contact one of them.
I will go into
We know how to contact the Shadow's Blade.
Yeah.
Blade Shadow.
Interchangeable is fine. It kind of seems like when people are talking about the Shadow Blades, they'll say that, but if it's like somebody that seems maybe more directly connected, they prefer Blade's Shadow. Like, it's kind of like, no, that's not how we pronounce it.
I will. So what I think we should do, since obviously that shop has been, something's probably happened to it. It was really close to ground zero.
Obliterated?
Most likely. So, here's my idea. It's probably a pretty bad idea, but I have no
All the
other
shitty restaurants.
other way to look. So we should look for all the crappy restaurants.
See if we can find them same people again.
Basically, like we just walk around looking like our adventurous selves. And we just wait for somebody to approach us weirdly. And we either get into the Thieves Guild or get robbed. You know,
I
I'm
mean,
giving
we
it a
could
good
just
50-50.
I'll just leave the bank with somebody else, and then we don't need to lose that.
It's very good. We'll just carry a little mouse of money on there, but just enough to grease the wheels if need be.
Yeah, for sure. We can
like
do
it.
that.
So yeah, we're going the blind road to
Okay.
just being like, oh yeah, we sure wouldn't want to steal anything. No,
I mean, the other thing we could do, though, is we could use the dry cleaning shop to see if the Thieves Guild is coming in there to...
we just like wait at the front for each customer, and be like, so you like stealing stuff?
Nah, but I mean, like, if we worked the front counter for a little bit and maybe got the feel for some people.
Go sit in the back of the restaurant with a cloak.
Was there any kind of history check and see if there was any identifying, or if there was anything weird like markings outside of? I'm assuming as my kind of background that I would recognize the like markings that might be outside of shops that show like fences.
I mean, you know Thieves Cant. if
Yeah,
I'm
so-
mistaken, so
I'm gonna look.
Wait, I have a better idea.
We're just gonna walk down.
I just
the street.
forgot I knew a language.
It's maybe the dialect's different. We should walk down, and I'm gonna look for any signs of the Thieves Guild. Look if there's any Thieves Cant written on the walls, basically marking places as fences and whatnot.
Well, that's smart.
And we should try to find one of those places, and then.
Well,
maybe
I don't know
we'll-
Thieves Can't, so you'll have to look for that, and I'll just...
I will. So when we're going through, I'm gonna look for any signs of it, and I'll point it out kind of on the down low to Kenna and be like,
He's teaching me Thieves Can't.
yeah, basically.
Is that what we're doing?
Yeah.
We're learning Thieves Can't on the DL?
It'll
Okay.
be quite difficult to teach her the entire language.
But I'll teach her like things to look out for. So I'm
Sure.
assuming there's gonna be like a markings that would be somewhat obvious for like a fence.
Like the old
Or-
Simpsons one where they're like, these are the hobo signals. This means old lady with a cat. This means good victuals.
Yeah.
You know.
Or like this is a
usual.
safe place to crash if like there's heat
You
on.
also probably want to start pretty far out, not close to center, or maybe midway.
Why don't we start in the creepy back alley where we used to have her dry cleaning?
Yeah, maybe we should start there actually.
Yeah.
The creepy dark alley.
Okay, so I don't want to say that Dis forgot he could speak Thieves' Cant because that's just silly. But we'll say that he hasn't really been paying attention to it because when you learned Thieves' Cant, that was like pre-catastrophe. And you've only really used it a little in between. So it's kind of like having a native tongue, but you haven't had to speak it in 10 years.
Yeah, I think the last time I used it was something with
Wasn't that the tree
Maverick and the tree stump.
Yeah. So I think it's kind of like refreshing yourself on a language you haven't spoken in a while. And as you kind of switch that energy mentally to trying to pay a little bit more attention to that, it's kind of like a veil being pulled away from the world.
Oh my.
And you're kind of like, oh yeah, that's right. A lot of these buildings do have weird things drawn on them. And you kind of take about, I'm going to say like 2 or 3 days to try to acclimate yourself to their specific dialect of symbols.
As I'm nearing the last day of that, I want to go back to Phelan's place and check the outside.
Sure. Okay. So, first of all, picking it up is a little harder than you kind of initially expected, but it's not impossible. You begin with some of the easy stuff, like you do notice there are some places you know are restaurants that have been marked, several of them with just very simple horizontal lines. But as you pay attention, you kind of notice it's kind of an informal ranking system. Like one line means the place isn't so good, or maybe not friendly is a better way to describe it. 2 lines seems to be kind of middle of the ground, and you notice a couple of places that the food isn't very good, but they've got 3 lines. And it definitely seems to kind of indicate to you maybe friendlier towards a certain type of person is a better way to describe
So we
it.
should eat there.
Yeah.
Other symbols start coming back to you as well. There are definitely places like Lazarus mentioned, buildings that are a little more... Very few places are straight up derelict at this point because so many people have been displaced. Everybody's looking for places. But you can see buildings that used to be more derelict that had symbols on them maybe indicating as such, but have since been scratched out or crossed out, kind of indicating that those aren't places for hideouts anymore, and that kind of stuff. And all of that information is starting to kind of come back to you. You check out Phelan's place. Almost every building in the Stronghold Market Rung has some sort of marking on it. Even if it's a very generic, like, you kind of pick up on symbols like people that understand Thieves' Cant don't like the people that live here type of messages. So just avoid this guy, he's an asshole. Or a guard lives here, or their family lives here, stuff like that. Phelan's building is completely devoid of marking. Not even a basic marking indicating the general friendliness of the practitioner.
How are these places usually marked? Like what has been used to mark them?
Most times it's very faint. You know, like if you go up to a stone wall and you take something sharp and you just scratch it, there's that super faint white line that'll remain. Most of it's like that. The patterns and the markings are meant to be very difficult to see. You have to get pretty much right up on them. It's part of the reason you didn't notice before.
Is there any other buildings where there's been markings of like somebody asking a question almost on the wall and then answers coming in later?
There is 2 buildings you have found that seem to be kind of informal message boards, or at least they were at one time. These two buildings are more derelict buildings, but since people have been relocated, you notice none of the scratchings seem especially fresh. Kind of like those message boards have been abandoned because just more traffic is around now.
I want to look around for something to scratch into the walls of Phelan's place.
Okay.
And I want to do an attempt at scratching in who was this on the wall.
Okay.
And then kind of leave enough room for, like, follow-ups, like trying to start a new message board type thing.
Sounds fair. You're not exactly sure that your dialect will be perfectly understood, and you haven't seen an example of somebody asking a question like that, like who lives here. But you get what you think will be kind of close. And it's definitely something that, using your version of Thief Camp, you understand well enough. So you're kind of hoping they'll pick up on it as well. And you leave it at that for the time being.
I also want to leave a mark there. It's like suspicious.
Okay.
Like some variety of be paranoid around this place.
Okay, like be wary.
Yeah.
Sounds fair. In the meantime, you've been teaching Kenna this a little bit, and it really has helped you a little bit with the market rung. You've picked up on little bits more information. You're also happy to notice that while the laundromat hasn't been marked as like a safe place for people that know Thieves Cant, it has never been marked as a place of like, it's okay to be here. These people seem like decent people.
I'll also I'll tell Nim and Ken, or I'll tell everybody about what the markings on the laundromat look like. Like, so if there's any need to, get some more clientele in here, I can help with that.
You also notice a symbol that you're not entirely sure the meaning of, but it is repeated very frequently throughout the Stronghold. And it's very simple, it's just a horizontal line drawn with the drawing of a door above it with a door handle. Like just a simple circular doorknob.
Red door.
It doesn't seem to be in reference to anything specific. Like, some restaurants have it, some don't. Some guards buildings have it, some don't. It doesn't seem to be specific about the building itself it's been carved onto. It just seems to be a different kind of message in general.
Mm-hmm. Starting to put dots together.
It's on, a lot of them, or?
It's very frequent throughout the place. It's even drawn on some of the cobbles that make up the roads and stuff like that. It just seems to be kind of a tag that's everywhere.
So there's nothing, is there anything that comes with it, like kind of a pair?
Nothing that always accompanies it.
Is there anything that's more commonly accompanying it? Especially if as it relates to like 1, 2, 3 marks for safety.
No.
Okay.
No, it's very much its own thing.
The restaurant?
Yeah. I want to look around for restaurants that
3.
3 marks on them.
There are several.
I'll just take Kenna into one of those and kind of linger around at the fronts looking for kind of the same type of situation as happened before where we get approached.
Okay, fair enough. So you walk into
sure
a place.
wouldn't want to steal anything.
Not a thief.
Definitely not a thief.
So
in case anybody was asking.
the place you settle on is, think a little bit like an old Western saloon, although obviously a stone building because of where you are. But it has kind of the same feel. It's a place where food can be found, drinks can be found, and when you walk inside with Kenna, you can't fail to notice that there is definitely a fair amount of gambling going on as well. None of these activities seem to be particularly hidden, but nevertheless, it does have the 3 markings near the doorway, and it's known as the Broken Bucket.
The Broken Bucket.
It seemed like a good choice to you at the time.
I want to look around for the shadiest motherfucker in here.
The shadiest
Why would you go
motherfucker.
shadiest?
All right, perception check.
I have no idea.
Let's find the
I'll help you. I'll
shadiest
help you with
motherfucker.
that.
You're helping? Like, no, wait. That guy over there, look at him.
I'm more perceptive than you.
That dude's way shadier than the dude you were looking at. Look at that guy.
Oh my gosh.
There's walls in here. Did you notice these walls?
And tables and shit.
10?
All right, I'm not gonna lie. You walk into the place and you're like, I'm gonna find the shadiest motherfucker in here. And then you look around and you're like, wow, a lot of these dudes look really shady.
New approach. Why don't we go sit down at a table and order some food and just start talking with the staff?
Alright, that works. I mean, that makes sense.
Is there any dude by himself?
Yeah, also,
Is there to by himself?
Especially shady dude.
A dude by himself.
And, like, I'll do a perception check for a dude by himself that doesn't look super shady, but definitely looks like he's, like, averting eyes of other people.
I can give you kind of that.
I was trying to think of how to help. I don't think I can help.
So you're looking around this place,
Yeah.
and almost every table has people engaged in some kind of gambling. Cards, dice being thrown, etc.
Yeah.
There are also several tables where people are eating, closer to the bar. There are people at the bar drinking, all that kind of stuff. But you notice that there's only really one table in the bar that has only one guy sitting at it. He's sitting all alone. He's not really averting anybody's gaze, though. He's leaned back in his chair, he's got both fists on the table, and he's just kind of sitting there like he's just kind of staring off into the middle distance a little bit. But his table is right in the middle of the bar. Nobody's sitting at his table. He's got a big... Think like a cowboy hat, but it kind of looks like somebody made it. It's not a professional cowboy hat. It's like it was made at home, or maybe it was made by a slightly shoddier craftsmanship type of leather worker. It's a little uneven, and it's dusty and dirty, and he's got the big cowboy hat. He's got long hair, big beard. The whole face is practically obscured by hair. And he's just sitting at the table staring off into the middle distance.
Is
Is
there...
there a lot of open tables at this place, or are they mostly full?
No, that's the only table.
Oh, okay.
That's even remotely open. It's a popular place.
I want to walk over there after Kenna finds him.
Uh-huh.
Or points him out.
Okay.
And I'll walk up to this guy. Or,
I'll walk up to this guy.
yeah, I start walking up to him like, it's a dude. No, you go first.
That's worked well for us so far.
It's true. Definitely not
Practice
pimping out
makes
Kenna for info.
Practice makes perfect. God. Okay, so he's sitting at the table, just kind of staring off.
Excuse me. Hi, sorry to bother you. We're just looking for somewhere to sit, and we were wondering if we could join you.
We join him.
Sorry, for the people listening, he didn't reply, but just hand motioned that the table was theirs.
Alright.
Do we sit down?
Who's got the highest passive perception?
Me. 18.
So, Kenna, you ask if you can sit there, and you start pulling the chair back to take a seat, and you can't help but notice that every table in the immediate vicinity has gone really quiet. They're all still playing, but, like, they're doing, like, this kind of cards.
Yeah.
People have never seen a 20 out of 20 before.
That's true. You don't know for sure it's the guy at the table. Kenna is also pretty much the hottest chick in the bar right now.
Pretty much. Someone hotter than me in the bar?
I may have neglected to mention the obvious prostitutes.
Yeah, I'm not half naked, so yep.
So, yeah. Well, number one, is there anybody looking like the waitresses coming over to serve drinks?
You do actually see a waitress slowly making her way over through the rather rambunctious crowd.
Okay. I'll wait for that to happen.
I think we just...
Quietly sit there and wait for her.
Maybe just, like, chat?
Yes. So, how's your day going?
There's no reply.
Alrighty. Thank you so much for sharing your table with us. That's very appreciated.
There's a short kind of nod. But other than that, no acknowledgement.
Do you come around here a lot?
No.
Owns the place.
Probably the owner of this place.
Have you ever seen anything like that explosion that happened? What's the timeline on this
Like
now?
a month ago?
About a month and a week ago, yeah.
Like that big explosion like a month ago. That was crazy, right?
There's a slow nod.
Yeah, in many words.
The girl finally approaches, and she kind of settles in between the two of you. Between the two of you so that you can order, but you can't help but notice it's also directly opposite the guy. Y'all want some?
Yeah.
We sure do.
What is this guy drinking or eating?
Nothing. He's just sitting at the
I'll
table.
just lean over to him. you have any recommendations for something to drink?
Not him. To
I
the
know,
guy.
but she replies, we mostly recommend y'all don't talk to Big Bob.
He seems like such a friendly guy.
Well, appearances can be deceiving.
That seems kind of cruel. I mean, he's been sitting here happy the whole time. Isn't that right, Bob?
Bob does kind of like the slow shift of the eyes towards you, and then just back to the waitress.
Yeah, so, any recommendations from you? Talking to the waitresses.
Well, we find most people like, the burgers ain't bad. And, we do got a fair amount of other victuals if you're used to certain other fare.
I like burgers.
I also like burgers.
Do you have anything? What about for drinks?
Well, it's been tough getting stuff after the big kaboom, you know. But, we got ale, and, we got kind of what I guess you could call a house wine. But it's, you know, some people like it.
I mean, I'm okay with a glass of that.
I want a ton of
Of the
motionary.
wine?
Yeah, one.
Huh?
Okay.
I have to be super stealthy sometimes. Sometimes you gotta,
This is gonna be
rub
like
elbows.
Great wine.
I want to wave her closer to me so I can talk a little bit quieter.
All right. She obliges. She moves in a little.
And, any help for maybe some goods I might want to get rid of that are harder to sell?
Jeez, I don't even know. Roll persuasion. Actually, roll performance. You're pitching yourself as something here.
Roll. Ever since we just got back.
Kenna, is there anything you want to do to help his illusion of a man looking to sell some things?
Yep, I'll help him with that.
How so?
I'll just like quietly whisper, they're real good.
We'll call it fair.
Well, please.
Oh,
It's better,
it
it's
helped.
better.
It's better.
14 for performance.
Okay. Her eyes kind of widen for a moment, and then she leans in. What exactly y'all talking about?
See, we got this
Hey.
dry cleaning service.
May have got some...
Oh, no.
I don't say that.
I know.
I don't say that.
I know. Nim had a tiny heart attack over there. His legit business just all the way down the shitter.
What if I...
We've got all this extra space.
What if I said I had some materials from Ground Zero?
And you were looking to find someone to buy that, is the idea?
Yeah, that'd be helpful. Anybody to talk to about something like that if there's no current buyers.
She stops leaning in and she kind of stands up. Honey, were you going to get a drink after all?
Yes, please.
Was that the wine or the ale?
Ale, please.
All right. I'll be right back with what you're looking for.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
She kind of walks
I
away.
feel like I'm with my people. She's speaking my language.
This is true.
Well,
So she walks away. What would you like to do while she's gone?
Not talk to Big Bob.
So, Bob. Sorry, Big Bob. I want to see, is there any difference when I say Bob versus Big Bob? Like a little flicker of anger?
Honestly, it's really hard to tell. Bob is that weird mix of possibly being incredibly buff and possibly being incredibly fat that just makes him impossible to tell what he's doing.
You wanna play a game? You wanna play a game?
I knew that was gonna come.
So you say you want to play a game. Bob's eyes shift from that middle distance back towards you. And then, kind of out of nowhere, his hand that was on the table the whole time just pushes a deck of cards forward. You're not even really sure how they got there.
What card game do you have in mind here? I'm a pretty good hand to go fish.
nice.
He slides the deck forward a little further, and the other hand slides forward 14 platinum pieces.
Holy.
And he just stares at you.
Oh.
I didn't break. We don't have platinum.
I think you sat down at the high stakes table, though.
I think we just did.
Like,
Wow, I've never seen real platinum before.
well, I don't know if I have something equivalent to that. Unless he had something in mind.
I swear to God, he glances at Kenna.
I'm just gonna glance at you.
Yes, I hope to God he does.
Just checks you out.
He doesn't glance at either of you. He just, with one big meaty finger, he just taps the platinum coins.
I think we're gonna have to sit this one out. I say that quietly to
That's
this.
140 gold?
Yep. Yeah.
140.
Yeah, I mean, you'd always give the gold equivalent. I don't think they brought that much coin with them, though.
What if I bet information that could get you more money than that?
No reaction.
No reaction?
Yep, just nothing.
Is the waitress coming back?
She's made eye contact with you a couple of times. You can see the drinks are ready, but she seems to be waiting on food.
I want to look his hands for a ring.
Okay.
Since both of them are on the
You take a look at his hands. There is no ring on his hands, but there is a tan mark from where a ring was.
Does it look like it would be like the same type of ring we're wearing?
Hard to say.
I know something I could bet.
What are you betting? Your ring? Don't bet your ring. You're gonna lose it for sure.
And then?
And then we're gonna be in major shit.
Put 14 platinum.
Yeah, 140 gold. We make that in 2 weeks at our business. Don't do it.
At least you know what the high stake is.
During the time it's taken you to kind of make this decision, you've, over the last 30 seconds or so, your leg has been quite itchy. Every once in a while you've kind of like patted at it, but this last time that you patted at it, there was a little hand there.
The fuck?
Just grab the wrist.
You hear kind of just a quick little yelp, and when you kind of look under the table, there's a little gnome under there, and he was kind of in the process of tugging your pant leg. But now, of course, you've got him by the wrist, and he's all wide-eyed, and...
I'll let go of his wrist and kind of just give him a questioning look.
Let go, kind of glares at you for a second, and then he gives you one of these, the quick little, like, come listen.
Sorry, my shoe's untied.
Alright? Your shoe's untied, you lean under the table, you get right up under there, he leans a little in, and he goes, BAH! And you smack your head into the table.
Oh God, that wasn't a shoe.
He gives you a little smile, and he goes, that's better. Now, how about a little respect?
I'm sorry. I'm not used to conversing with people under tables.
Well, maybe you should get used to it. Nobody looks under a table.
I'm looking under a table right now.
Only because I pulled your leg. I've been under here for minutes.
Good point.
I hear you got some stuff you're looking to get rid of.
Yeah.
What kind of stuff?
Oh, all sorts of stuff, but I don't want to talk about it under a table, you understand?
I'm telling you, nobody listens under a table. Just tell me the stuff you got.
That doesn't sound very good. Doesn't sound like a good idea. I've been caught by things like that before. Isn't there any place more quiet we could talk?
Well, I don't know if I want to do business with a guy who admits he's been caught before.
Well, caught by... I'm gonna look at Kenna. Like my, suspicious party members.
He kind of looks at you. Oh, I see. And he kind of lets one hand trail down her leg for a moment.
I feel this, I assume?
Probably a little, yeah, but kind of like that faint, like, oh, maybe there's just like a little bit of dust or something. He seems to be very.
Like, what the fuck are you doing?
He seems to have very nimble hands.
I want to.
Not in the creepy way, perverts.
Where was he? Where did I feel? I want to check my fucking belt and shit to make sure everything is still there.
Okay, you take a look at your belt, and it definitely it's not all there.
I want to grab his wrist again after he went off of Kenna.
Okay.
Like, are you a little prick? Number one, before we do any sort of deals, I need my shit back. I'm the one who does the stealing.
Gives you a shrug. I had to make sure you were paying attention, and he gives you your stuff back.
While he's doing that, I want to try to jack something from him.
Okay. Roll a sleight of hand. I think we'll just do it as straight-up competition between the two of you.
I think you got something.
Why?
What'd you roll?
Same thing I've rolled like a million times.
5?
13?
Okay. You go to reach in, and you get 2 fingers all the way into his pocket before his eyes slip down that way for a second. He goes, yeah, it's not half bad. Alright, fine. We can talk. What, you want like a back room or something?
Yeah, anything away from prying eyes and curious ears.
Alright, but you're bringing the skirt. You should probably leave Bob alone anyway.
But, yeah, for sure.
Alright. Follow me then.
I'll back out, stand up from the table.
Sorry, I realized I wear Velcro.
Don't say that.
No, of course not.
I wore buttoned shoes?
Sorry, I'm not even wearing shoes, I forgot. Kenna, suddenly I realized I had something to do in the back room. Thank you for your time, Bob.
He just kind of tucks the cards and the money back under his hands.
Maybe be back for a high-stakes game later when I have something to offer.
Thanks for letting us sit at your table, Bob.
No immediate reaction.
And I guess we stand up and...
I follow you.
Yeah, and then I'll just... Actually, I'll just ignore the waitress or glance over at her and give her a nod or something, because I'm assuming she's the one who...
Okay. The little guy heads back towards the back part of the bar, tucked under the stairs that lead to the second level where a lot of the prostitutes have been bringing people. There's a little half-sized red door tucked away under there.
Ooh.
And we'll end there.
I was right, the red door is the big deal.
Solar thing.
Wow, what a cliffhanger. I wonder what's going to happen next time. Seriously, guys, thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening in. If you liked what you heard, share us with your friends. If you hated what you heard, share us with your enemies. Seriously, though, like, comment, subscribe. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll find out what happens to Double Doubles and Dragons next time.